Hi guys, Andrea Mills here. Today Tom and I are going to share with you guys how we do our audio Bible. We've had lots and lots of questions about that, and I am kind of a dunce when it comes to electronic things in that department. That is totally his department. So he has made a video for us that I am sharing with you on what we use and how we set it up, and there's going to be links down in the description on the stuff that we actually use. Now, even if you don't get the exact same things that we have, I hope that this is helpful to you so that you can at least be heading in the right direction or kind of understand how this all works and find something that would work for your family. He will be talking about it on his part, about how great this has been for our family, but I want to just reiterate it ahead of time, I guess, that this was like one of the best ideas that he has ever had. It started out with our boys. He just had an audio Bible that would come on the computer that was by their room where they could hear it. So he had it set to start playing at a certain time each night, and they would listen to it while they're sleeping, and it kind of snowballed from there into being this whole house audio Bible playing all the time. One of the things that I have really liked is that it's so gentle in that it's just always playing, and I'm always making connections. Like we hear, it takes about 3 days to go through the whole Bible, and so many times I'll hear the same thing coming up, like a couple of times right in a row. I'll hear the same verses that I was thinking about, and I just realized, I really need to pay attention to that and think about it. But I also, having it so fast, I've made so many connections in my mind that I don't think I ever would have normally, because normally, even if you try to read through the Bible in a year or something, it's like by the time you get from one end to the other, you're not necessarily going to see how all the dots connect. So it's been super, super helpful. And a lot of times, right now Claudia sleeps through the night, but there have been seasons where I have had babies, up in the night, and I'm nursing them and just laying there in that kind of half asleep state and listening to the Bible. It's been so, it's just been so really nice, and I've just learned so much. And I remember one night in particular hearing, it was Revelation was playing, and the angel is telling John that he's going to take him to and show him the bride of the Lamb. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. I was so half asleep, and it's like I just remember thinking, this is going to be really great. I can't wait to hear this. And when he starts talking, he takes him and shows him the New Jerusalem. And I'm like, that was the first time it struck me, the metaphor. Tom will say this already, but the audio Bible we use is Faith Comes by Hearing. It's from Faith Comes by Hearing. And it is just really excellent. And there are times when it can really move me because of the music and the voice actor's voice and just the way it is. Like, I think it's Isaiah 33 that it just really touches me when I hear it.
Isaiah 53.
Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows, and familiar with suffering. Like one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he took up our infirmities and carried our sorrows. Yet we considered him stricken by God, smitten by him, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all like sheep have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. Who can speak of his descendants? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was stricken. He was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life a guilt offering, he will see his offspring and prolong his days. And the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand. After the suffering of his soul, he will see the light of life and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many, and he will bear their iniquities. Therefore I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong, because he poured out his life unto death, and was numbered with the transgressors. For he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors.
This has been a huge thing for our family, and so I really hope that you guys will consider setting up something like this in your own house. So I guess that's all I have to add to what he said. So here is Tom.
Hey everyone, my name's Tom Mills. I'm Andrea Mills' husband, and a lot of people have been asking about our audio Bible. It's in the background of nearly all of our videos, and people want to know what that's about and how it works, and so I thought I'd make a video, and I was wanting to do one anyways for my channel, so I thought we'd just do it this way and cover both bases. So what we do is we have an audio Bible, and it plays throughout our whole house, every room, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It never stops while we sleep or eat or do anything we do. It's always going. And what we do is we have an iPod, and it just is hooked up to 2 FM transmitters, both that came with a set of speakers. And then we just turn the speakers on whatever room we want, and it works great, and broadcast the Bible throughout the whole house. It's given us extremely a lot of knowledge about the Bible. My kids know Bible stories that adults don't know, and we're awesome at trivia and all that sort of thing. It's a lot of fun. My kids know so much Bible. It really is great. It's probably the best decision we've made. Anyways, I thought we'd go over some of the equipment and how you do it, and if you want to do something like that, and what it would take, and then we'll talk about some of the caveats and things you run into as a result of doing an audio Bible 24/7. Okay, so this is some of the equipment that we use, or have used and do use. We have 2 sets of speakers here. This one's by Audio Unlimited, and it comes with either 2 speakers or 4 speakers and the receiver or the transmitter. So you just hook this thing into an iPod or an audio player of some sort and turn it on, and it broadcasts FM transmission to these speakers. This does the same thing. I haven't been able to, I thought for sure if I got the right frequency I could just get one transmitter and it would broadcast to multiple categories of speakers, but it didn't work out that way. So we ended up using actually both of them. They both have a little bit different uses. This one has a lot better quality. So you just turn it on, turn it up.
Succeeded him as king.
It's got great bass, and it's hardly any static. It works really well.
In those days, Hezekiah became ill.
But the range isn't quite as good as I would like. There's certain rooms in the house I can't put it in because it doesn't reach very well, or it gets very staticky as it gets very far and pops a lot. This one here has a lot of range, and it does get staticky as well, but it has a lot better range. It's also an outdoor speaker, so you can carry it around outside or whatever with you, and anywhere you go. But since it's they're both hooked to the same iPod,
And Hezekiah wept bitterly.
it just works perfectly like that. Sorry if that's too loud, right by the microphone.
Go and tell Hezekiah.
So yeah, that works great like that. Well, that's all you would need. Just a music player of some sort and a set of one of these speakers. And of course, the more speakers you get, if you buy more of the same brand, you can then put the speakers in different rooms and that sort of a thing. I also have these for the car. I bought this on a cheesy little Chinese knockoff electronics shop online. It's actually a lot of really cool stuff there. But it's actually the music player and a transmitter all put together. It's made for the car. So you just plug this in to the cigarette lighter of the car, and the audio Bible's preloaded on it. It's got 4 gigs of memory, and it just works. You just turn your radio in on the car, and it just plays, and it works great. Since they're so cheap, I usually buy them in bulk and give them to people. Same with these. These are a little bit more expensive, but not by much. They're like $20 for this speaker. This speaker is normally for like an iPod or an iPhone, and you can you use it for amplification. But it has a card slot on it, and if you put the audio Bible or any music on the card, then you just turn it on, and it just plays it.
Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created.
So that works really great. These ones are about $20 for the speaker, and then you have to buy the card, which if you're shopping around, you can usually get them for about $7 for the card. If you're these are more portable. You can just buy these right away and not have to have an iPod or anything else. But if you're wanting the whole house solution, this is a little bit better way to go. Long term, I'm actually going to be switching to this. The problem with these is they don't have very, very strong signal. They're about as strong as you can get. The FCC regulates it pretty highly, so this is about as powerful as you can get with FM. It pretty much will get mostly the inside of your house, not really much else outside. This is a FM transmitter. It comes as a kit from Ramsey Electronics, and they're not legal to buy these, but you can make them. So that's why they have to sell them as a kit. So if you buy the kit and you do all the soldering yourself, you can have one of these. And this can go like to the whole block, which is great. And then you just need a regular radio. So I had bought these. Any FM radio can work at that point. I thought for sure I could get this to work with this speaker by putting the right frequency, but for some reason I can't get that to work either. But I'm a computer repairman, and this little guy building this took everything I had, and I still didn't do very good. I mean, my soldering joints are kind of messy. But if you're wanting an adventure and you're willing to really try at it, the people at Ramsey are really awesome. You can call them and they'll tell you what you did wrong. They'll ask you, where do you have at this location? And all the locations are numbered on the board. And they'll say, oh, that's not supposed to be there. Put that somewhere else. And you got to fix it. Eventually I got it to work, but it was quite a chore. But it's a lot more powerful. At some point we may switch over to that. But that's pretty much all the equipment there. You just turn it on and you have audio Bible playing wherever you'd like. So that's pretty much the equipment. And then there's the caveats of what actually happens when you have an audio Bible playing all the time. A little bit of info. You can listen to the audio Bible and go through the Bible so much faster than you can reading it. My stepdad reads the Bible every year, reading with a Bible a few chapters a day, I think, and it goes through the whole plan in a year. And by the end of the year, you've read the whole Bible. With this one, you can go through the entire New Testament in 20 hours. So it goes through the Old Testament, takes 2 days, and the New Testament takes just under a day. So in 3 days, the entire Bible plays through, from beginning to finish, not leaving out anything. That equals out to about 110 times a year. So you can imagine how many times this goes through our house. And it's caused our kids to just flourish in what they know about the Scriptures. That they know about the Scriptures embarrasses adults very regularly. They know stories that they'll be talking to someone, like the story in the Bible about that guy, and people are like, what are you talking about? But it's pretty neat. It's an example. The other day we had a tetherball tournament, and we were playing, and somebody kept missing the tetherball, and Thomas, my oldest, he says, Dad, the Bible says you're not supposed to beat as a man beating the air. And I thought that was awesome. I'm sure a lot of people don't know what that's at, but it's a reference to 1 Corinthians 9:26. It's fun that my kids know that. I mean, that's a pretty advanced teaching, and not a lot of people really are familiar with it, or if they are, they wouldn't be able to put it in everyday life. That's the funny thing, too. When you read the Bible or you're memorizing it, you can say, tell me John 3:16, and we can just rattle it right off. But a lot of times you don't actually think about the verses very much that way. You remember them, but you haven't actually applied them. And to actually see, that's where the audio Bible really shines, is that you hear the story more like a movie, and it has a lot more meaning, and you end up applying it to places in your life you might not have normally. Plus, I think there's something to hearing. You know, the verse, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the Word of God. That's an interesting take on it. And of course, Jesus is talking more about the hearing in your heart. But still, there's a lot more you get when you actually are listening, and rather than sitting down to study. when I was young, I would want to set out to read the whole Bible, and I'd get to Numbers or Deuteronomy, and I'd be bored out of my skull reading about the dimensions of the temple or the genealogies, and I almost didn't get through it. But now it goes through it so much more, and I remember so much. I find myself, I realized out of nowhere, I found myself talking along with it and just reciting it with the scriptures, just because the tone of voice and the influx of their voice makes me remember it. And I end up realizing I memorized the whole chapter of Hebrews 10. I had the whole chapter memorized, and I never once sat down and said, I'm going to memorize chapter 10 of Hebrews. It's just completely random. I'm not sure why it stuck in my head, but I know it all now, and it's just really great. And it's amazing how many of those things will stick out to you that you might not have before. One thing is on the audio Bible itself, where you get one. So there's Faith Comes by Hearing as a company that we got our audio Bible from like 15 years ago, and they have a website. It's bible.is, and you can get nearly a bunch of versions. I don't know how many there are, but there's a whole bunch of different audio versions of the Bible you can download for free. I think you have to sign up or for an account or something, and they'll give it to you. But it works really great. A note on the versions: if you have a strong preference to a version of the Bible, you should probably just get that. Because it's going to be the one that sticks with your family through their whole life. My kids will always know NIV verses now, and when a verse is in a different format, it seems a little foreign or alien to them. And so if you have a certain preference, I tell you to stick with that. If you don't have a preference, I really like the NIV for the storytelling aspect. I think it's easier to read. When I'm studying, I like the NASB, the New American Standard. I think it's much more accurate, but sometimes it's so accurate it doesn't story very well. So take that for what it's worth. But once you start with one, you probably can't go back. Once you got a year or two of Bible in you and you start your brain starting to memorize it, it just confuses everything to go and change it midstream. Some people say you play it all night long. Isn't that weird? Can you have a hard time sleeping? And it was never a problem for me. For Andrea, it was a problem at first. We just had to turn it down. Oh, it's too loud. Turn it down. And now we don't even hear it. It's like the train. We have people come over here and visit, and we got a train that comes through all the time. And people say, "Man, doesn't that train get annoying?" And I have to think, "Oh, wait, yeah, I guess the train is going by." And you stop hearing it after a while because you get so used to it. And it's the same with the Bible. It's easy to sleep after you become used to the thing. And plus, you have some really fun dreams. I've had some really cool dreams of, with the Bible stories getting intertwined in there. And I'll end up with some neat theological thoughts that I chew on throughout the whole day, strictly by dreaming of them in a weird way. We use a dramatized version. I'd highly recommend the dramatized audio Bible version. They have some non-dramatized. Dramatized just means that it's the same scripture, it's read straight through, but they have different actors. Like one actor that plays Peter, one actor that plays Jesus, one actor that plays John, and they got music and sound effects, and it really is much more like listening to an audiobook than it is, just reading the Bible. It's so much easier to listen to. If your favorite version's not available in dramatized, I'd say that's the one thing. Skip it. Get a dramatized one. Find a new version. I'm pretty sure there's a dramatized one of all the major versions in there, but so that's kind of a good way to go. And the actors make a neat way to listen to it, because the actors, you become accustomed to hearing that person's voice. And so I may not know where to find it in the Bible, but I can hear it in my mind and think, oh, that's Paul's voice, and I know to look, in Paul's letters, and helps me find things. I also will tell you there'll be some acting that'll just be straight B acting, some terrible actors in there, but you get used to them. And in a lot of ways, our kids memorize verses that way that they would have never paid attention to. And every time the guy talks about the Magi, says, "Where is the one who's born King of the Jews?" And now it's kind of a joke. Where's the guy who's King of the Jews? Because that's what it sounds like the guy is saying. He's got a really thick accent, and maybe it's authentic. I don't know. But there's some really bad acting in there. I really hate the guards. The guard sounds like a 55-year-old man, and he's got a cool voice. I can see why they cast him, but I mean, it's like some guy they left on the force who's old and washed up. They didn't have the heart to let go, and I mean, he's really the guy who's going to haul in Jesus. And I just thought it was a little silly. But anyways, there's some bad acting. There's some bad pronunciation sometimes. Actually, maybe the pronunciation's right. I don't know. There's a lot of hard words, as you know, in the Bible. That's another thing. Don't get hung up on the pronunciation. I know some people who started with an audio Bible, and they couldn't get over how it pronounced one of the cities. He says, that's not how it is, it's this way, not that way. And it bugged them so much that they stopped listening to it. And no matter what, the more you hear it and you get hearing these pronunciations, you're going to wow everybody at the Bible study, because everybody else starts reading and they come to a thing that they have to sit there and try and pronounce it, and you don't know, they always feel awkward because you don't know if you're doing it right, but you'll have something to say. I guess it may not be right either, but more often than not, I think that they are generally accurate, but don't get hung up on the small things. You need to be prepared to talk to your kids. There's going to be all kinds of stories come up, and some uncomfortable situations to talk about, and that's not a bad thing. Those are all good things. There is some pretty explicit stuff in the Bible, believe it or not. Violence doesn't bother us in our family. Sexual things is more something we try to tone down, but if it's from the Bible, that's the way they're going to learn, right? That's better than them learning from a Hollywood movie or something else. So we decided to just grin and bear it and just go right through it. There's a couple really awkward verses if you're interested in looking them up. The most explicit verse in the Bible, as far as I'm concerned, is Ezekiel 23:20. But there's also Proverbs 5:19 or Genesis 19:5, and those are all a little uncomfortable when they come up. Thankfully, the kids haven't really brought them up yet, but they do bring up other things. It's like, Dad, how come they were laying together and they didn't have a baby? Because that's the way it talks about laying with your wife and all that kind of stuff. So there's some really funny things some of the kids have said, and that'll always stick with us. But it is so great for learning the Bible, like not just knowing it, learning it, and knowing it in your head, but getting a big picture from start to finish of God's redemption from the beginning to the end. And there's a lot of things you miss, like it's neat to hear the Psalms, like David's fleeing from Saul, and then right after that chapter of hearing that, you hear the psalm that David wrote while he was fleeing from Saul, and it really is neat. It puts it into perspective, and it also breaks it up. Reading 150 Psalms back to back gets a little old. So that's kind of neat. We do ours in chronological order instead of just going in book order from Genesis to Revelation. We do it in chronological order. So it starts off in Genesis for a little while, then it goes to Job, and then goes back to Genesis, and before you know it, it filters in some of the Kings and Chronicles, and it interweaves it with the Psalms all through there, and you hear the books of wisdom, Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, right when Solomon is reigning, and it's neat. You get a lot of different pictures a lot of times, because you don't realize, like, 1st and 2nd Chronicles actually spans most of the Old Testament, and we read it as one book, but in reality it's broken up through all of those, and so this breaks it up in coordinates. There's a lot of chronological reading plans online, and you'll notice one thing about them: every single one is different. There actually isn't some archaeological evidence that just says, this is the order that the Bible was written in. We don't actually know. We can piece things together, because if it talks about a guy dying, well, then certainly that guy's words have to be before he died. And so doing logical games like that, we've actually adjusted our chronological order plan for our family. I call it the Mills Chronological Bible Reading Plan. And I guess I can share that and put it on there if you're interested. And I move Paul's letters around here and there based on how despairing they may sound. He was killed by Nero in 69 or 70 AD, somewhere in there. And you can see some of his letters are much more bright and cheery, and some of them are much more dreary and a little more depressed sounding. And so we use that information to put those towards the end of his life, maybe when he was in jail waiting his sentence. So anyways, things like that. We'll put that on there, but the chronological order really makes it so much more fun to listen to as well, because you get a lot of the perspectives. A lot of the things in Kings are the same in Chronicles with a slightly different twist, and you get them all right next to each other, which is pretty neat. But overall, you need to have an audio Bible, as far as I'm concerned. It's been the greatest way to learn the Bible ever. It becomes part of you. It becomes part of your family and part of your life in a way much different than just studying or even just reading would do, because it hits you off guard. You're just thinking. It's funny how many times I'll be sitting there like depressed or happy or having some feeling, and then I'm sitting there, and then the Bible some verse just comes on. It's like exactly what I needed to hear right at that moment. And it's like, man, how did that work out? I mean, it plays straight through with no breaks. What are the chances that I would hear that verse right when I needed it? And apparently pretty good. Or oftentimes I'll be thinking about a verse, I think, man, that verse is really profound. I've been interested in that. And while I'm thinking about that, that verse will come on. I'm like, what are the chances? Out of 3 days' time, all the different minutes and seconds I could be having thoughts, and it comes on. It's just amazing to see the things weird coincidences that happen as a result of doing it. But overall, if you have any questions, let me know. Put it in the comments. If you want to know how we did something or how we made use of something, we can help you do that if you're interested. So, thanks for listening.